So here we are in the land of Oz, coming out of lockdown, and you're sort of thinking to yourself, have I suddenly changed into an introvert? Why can't I seem to want to go back out into the world at large? The signs of lockdown are all around me. I'm a hairy goat, and I just don't want to feel like I want to connect. There's some really obvious reasons why that's the case. So let's go over those and work out if you have suddenly turned into an introvert, or you're just suffering a little bit of trauma from coming out of our many lockdowns in Oz. So you're probably going through every range of emotion that you have in terms of feeling like you want to run away from the situation and not engage back with the noisy outside world. You've just got your quiet space going, you've got control of your quiet space, and now suddenly everything is going to intrude on that space. And it's perfectly understandable that you feel quite vulnerable about stepping back into it, because one of the things you've gained is probably a better understanding of time and what's been a big use of your time. So the thing is it unreasonable to actually want the lifestyle that you want? And the best way to decide that is by learning how to engage with the new values that you want to step forward into the life you want. And sometimes that can be a little confronting, and sometimes we don't really understand the values that we want to have. Core values that we've always expected that we should have, but do we have them as rules or values? And we're going to talk about that little subtle differences and why learning to understand the values that you want to have make this next process of stepping back out into the world so much easier. So feeling like a bit of an introvert actually isn't such an unusual thing. Most people, when they've been through a long trauma or injuries, when they've been in and out of hospital or rehab, have felt that feeling of going from a safe place back out into the world, even though they've been really looking forward to it, now feel unsure and uncertain about leaving that safe place and engaging back with the world. So you're not sure about those sensations of wanting to stay safe and wanting to keep your world around you within the confines of what you can control. And the hardest thing often is that you've stepped back out into sections of your life again and you feel a total sensory overload. And it's normal to feeling that way, and engage that way is actually a fairly normal sensation. Have you turned into an introvert, or are you just still in that mode of controlling your environment around you and not sure if you want to step back out? So the biggest thing you can learn first is, well, where do I want to direct my time? So of course, like anything else, it's changing habits when you're trying to reconnect with the world that you were once in, and understanding also how things used to work that you did naturally all the time. These things are one of the examples of that, of getting back and getting used to using them again. Goes at 1:15. So it's a little task like this where just getting familiar with just getting back into the groove of healing that familiar click, getting the poles even, remembering left hand went into this strap, right hand went into this strap, looking at the hill you want to climb again, and then setting off. Hiking poles in themselves are probably one of those great little examples that are your assistance to take one step towards the life you want to return to. And that life you want to return to may be quite different to the one you had before. So let's have a look at some of the things that can make up those factors of how you jump back into your life and what you want it to look like.
Mark Twain said, "I'm an old man and have known a great many troubles, but most of them never happened." Except this pandemic is a little different because we've all gone through it, all of us together, and yet we're all bound to be affected differently, all coming out of it differently, all feeling different things about how we want to come out of it. So we have all been through it together. Some of us want to get just back to whatever normal was before. Some of us will think of it as a great changing learning experience of the things we want to now do in our lives, and others will just still want to stay hidden and protected. So this is where sometimes looking into our values and our new values that we want to have can help us move away from being stuck in our safe place, being stuck in our routine that we've created around us and controlled environment, to moving forward again and becoming unstuck and stepping away from that closed in space, controlled space that you had before, and learning to re-engage with the endless possibilities that you can shape now going forward because of the values that you've come to understand want to be in your new life. So let's quickly look at what values actually are. They're usually statements about what you're trying to do in your life and give you clarity and a sense of purpose and meaning moving forward. What they shouldn't be is rules. In other words, I should do this, I have to do that, I must do the other. The right thing to do is this, the wrong thing to do is that. They're actually about just giving you affirmation and motivation to have a meaningful purpose in the direction that you want to turn your life towards. So here are some of the values that are keeping me going towards the life I want to live outside and through the end of this COVID period. The first two being courage and adventurous. I always thought, especially when I was younger, that adventure and courage had to be big, grand things and big schemes. Go hard or go home was the motto generally. And in actual fact, courage and adventure can be in that small space of the courage to step into an uncomfortable situation that you've never been in. The adventure of starting something new like this and following it through is a big adventure in itself. So that's like when I first started doing this, I could never be in any form of public space doing any filming. In a funny way, lockdown gave me that time to actually evolve and be a little bit more comfortable. Not that I could walk down the street with a camera in any way, shape or form, but I can now be beside a public space and actually use my camera and have my camera with me, carrying it in an obvious way, which I'd normally hide because I'd never want to draw attention to myself. So in a funny way, COVID let me have that space to get more comfortable with it. So now I want to use that space though to develop and grow. So going from a platform of strength and building on that rather than a platform of timidity. The next one's talk exactly about what this channel is about, which is that expanding my skillfulness and curiosity, then encouragement, which is all about giving the confidence to feel that they're not alone with those thoughts and feelings, and then also the skills that they can try to apply in getting through those periods of feeling uncomfortable and moving past that sensation of I can't do this, I'm really stuck. Then lastly, of course, self-care. And self-care comes in a lot of different varieties, which I didn't understand at all, especially being a male, that you thought you had to soldier on and soldier forward and not talk about things and not allow yourself to have anything other than your armor on at all times. The confidence just to go, I'm struggling, but I'll sit here in this space anyway, and learn to be okay and gather my thoughts together, regroup, see what needs to be done, find the resilience and the strength to grow back to the place I want to be and to understand what exactly is that place I want it to be. So these are what value cards mean to me, and sometimes they can give you a much better clarity of the world that you want to shape around you. So I'll leave a link in the bio below about some cards that you can get and try for yourself. I really highly recommend them, and those with setting goals really help you have the courage to step forward, step back into the world that you want to reshape. Here are some that you might think of that are really good in this time, which is persistence, understanding better self-care, which is sometimes a really foreign and gives you thoughts of weakness, and yet it is actually strong to show self-care to yourself and to allow yourself to be put forward first in terms of making sure you're mentally and physically strong. Then of course you can add whatever else in terms of values that you want, but one of the other big things obviously during this time is that flexibility when you're trying to step back into the world, of having that courage to say yes and that flexibility to dip your toe in, come back out, come maybe to your safe place again, but then say yes again and allow yourself to get used to that exposure feeling of being uncomfortable and slowly and surely getting back out into the world that you want to do. Flexibility is a wonderful thing, rather than that rigid, I want to stay in my safe place and I never want to leave it ever again.
So this is day 3, getting back out into society, and I just want to do it like this a little bit because I want to show, especially from an introvert's perspective, that it is possible to step back out there into that big scary world when the traffic noise is getting louder, as you can probably hear in the background, and the hustle and bustle of life has really seemed to step up a gear, and you're feeling a little uncomfortable about that, whether you want to get back into it. And it still comes back down to that value of, I want to connect with society, I want to help people, and I want to still live as full a life as I possibly can. So rather than still staying hidden in my safe place, I've often had to think of stepping back out into the world and reconnecting with friends and family. It can be a little daunting at times, and that's totally understandable, but if we stay in that safe place, our safe place gets slowly smaller and smaller, and it's just coming to terms with the fact that shape the world that you want on your terms, and allow yourself to step back into situations that you want. Use those values that we talked about earlier to get back into doing what you want to do and stay true to that. So one of those things for me is making sure I take a little bit more self-care and understanding that how important that is, especially if I want to be a little creative, that I can't just give myself a half hour here or a half hour there. I need to sometimes take a half day or a full day or even a couple of days. And the same thing for taking holiday or downtime, is that you can't expect to unwind sometimes in one day off or one day off there or here. So understanding self-care, getting connected to your values, and allowing yourself to reshape and stay true to the world that you want to get back into, maybe having a little bit more time, and that's important. So maybe thinking about shifting to part-time work or shifting to more contract work. And all these things are now up to you about how you want to do it. So don't stay hidden in that safe place, step out of that, but step into the world that you want to make it. And that's a really important thing. So remember to be kind. Most important thing is be kind to yourself, and say yes to taking new opportunities and reshaping your world. I hope this really helps. Take care. All the best in the future.